In this video, I'm gonna share with you step by step how you can actually DM a stranger online and persuade them to actually book a sales call with you and even eventually buy your product. This will work whether you're doing Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or even Reddit DMs. In fact, I've been able to scale my business to over 60K per month just by utilizing this strategy without any paid ads. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. Now, the first thing that you need to understand is how you might even find a prospect to DM in the first place. Now, there are a couple different options. Now, the first option is where you actually generate inbound DMs. And the way that you would do this is primarily via sharing content. So let's go into a couple examples here. So I'm about to share some specific examples for you, but in no way is this every single method in which you can start to generate some of these DM conversations. There's actually many more. I'm just gonna share with you some of the ones that I've personally used in the past. So we can begin on the inbound side with some Facebook group posting. So the really nice thing about Facebook groups is that you can essentially find communities that have your ideal buyer. So for example, let's say you're selling into software businesses. So SaaS actually stands for software as a service. So all of these companies, all of these people in this community either own SaaS companies or they work at SaaS companies or they're just interested in the world of software. This so happens to be some of the types of people that I normally work with and help with my own business. So what I often do when it comes to trying to generate some inbound interest is I'll share content. So here actually a couple years back, I drove a ton of leads inbound by just sharing this one post, which was all about how I use cold outreach to generate software sales. So I'm not gonna make you read it all, but it's pretty technical, but it really shows that I'm an expert in my space. And when you actually look at the results, it's pretty amazing. You can see a ton of people that are saying, hey, this is outstanding. We use this technology. What do you think? And you can actually see here, Clifford, for example, says that I sent you a connection request. And I'll show you the conversation that I actually had with him a while back. So he actually DMs me and he says, hey, I saw your post, thought I'd reach out and connect to learn a bit more about your services. I've been looking for some outbound solutions for our agency and our SaaS product. So to cut the story short, we end up jumping on a call and he actually ends up contracting me to do some work for him. So that's one way in which you can drive some inbound interest. You can even go as far as to build your own Facebook group. I actually have one here with around 5,000 members. Also, essentially teaches people how to generate more leads, how to improve their sales process. And this is really great because I can build a ton of authority here since everyone knows me and I am essentially leading this entire tribe and community. So here's an example of a post that I made and I had around 636 people reach. And I'm more or less just selling people, hey, this is like the best way that you can generate qualified leads. If you want us to help you, just comment below. And you can actually see a ton of people saying, hey, Lloyd, would love to learn a bit more. Let's go. This is a really great way for you to get this input. And then you can just DM them straight and try to generate a conversation that way. Another way that you could do this is on Instagram. So this is a close friend of mine. He actually runs a massive YouTube channel with around 1 million followers. And one of the things that they sell is this language course. They teach people essentially how to speak Chinese better. So you'll actually see that if you go into his stories, one of the things that he'll do is actually tell people, hey, if you're interested in learning Mandarin really fast, then just DM me the word Mando and I'll send you some details. So essentially having his 50,000 subscribers opt in to getting some information. If they DM him, then they can actually have that conversation in the private messages and potentially move them into a bit more of a sales focused conversation. So those are multiple ways in which you can actually leverage inbound marketing in order to generate some DMs and potential sales. And you can do this on almost every single platform, right? You can do this on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can even do this on Reddit, which is something that I've tested in the past. Now, the second way in which you can generate these DMs is via outbound messaging. And this is where you're actually reaching out to brand new cold prospects who do not know who you are. So here's a couple examples of how you can do that as well. So one way you can actually deploy outbound messaging in order to generate these DMs is to just reach out to people via LinkedIn. One of the reasons why I think this is a great platform is you can automate a lot of the work. So here's an example of a tool called Dripify. And Dripify is pretty interesting because it allows you to actually sequence out campaigns. So in an automatic way, you can actually pull in leads from LinkedIn, and then you can start messaging them and sending out connection requests and even doing things like liking their posts or giving them endorsements. And this can all be done in a sequential order in order to generate a reply. So I actually have a different video that goes super deep into how you can actually set some of these automations up, and you can check it out right here. So as far as Facebook is concerned, here's another way that you can actually do outbound marketing. Once again, you find another Facebook group that has a lot of the types of people that you would normally want to sell into. So here is a group which has around 50,000 people, all coaches, consultants, agency owners. So for the most part, the types of clients that I like to work with. And then you can actually use this tool called Pepper. And Pepper actually will allow you to automate the sending of messages, just like how you saw with LinkedIn. So there's an actual extension here that you just need to click, and you can actually send out 50 friend requests a day, and it'll also come with an extra message along with it, so you can automate it. And then if you actually look inside the Pepper dashboard, you can actually see that you're able to filter based on job titles. You're able to actually exclude specific job titles that you're not going after. And then here is where you can essentially put the automated first message in. So it's really cool stuff, and this will save you a ton of time. So if you're interested in learning about more ways on how you can really leverage Facebook organically with no ads to generate lots and lots of conversations and sales calls, I actually have another video where I go much deeper into how you can actually utilize Facebook for that purpose. Just check it out here, and I'm sure it'll be super valuable for you. Now, the next thing to understand is how to actually structure a conversation inside the DMs. And the reason why I bring this up is because most appointment setters that I meet really struggle with actually knowing how to communicate effectively in the direct messages. Most of the time, they're either very unconvincing and they fail to convey enough value to actually book the call in the first place, or they're the other way, meaning they're super pushy, they're super aggressive, and they just scare the prospects away. So there's actually a fine balance between being very human and genuine while still being assertive enough that you can sell what it is that you're trying to sell. So here is my 4-step framework on how to actually execute these calls. So step number 1 is that you want to make sure it's the right person to talk to. And by the right person, what I mean is that they even generally fit your ideal client profile. So for example, let's say you're selling to moms and your product is meant to help them lose weight. Well, let's say you're talking to someone and they're not even a mom. They're probably a bad prospect. Or another example could be that you sell some sort of coaching product to help business owners learn how to become better marketers. Well, if the prospect that you're talking to doesn't even own a business, then you're probably talking to the wrong person, right? So in general, I would say the first step is that you want to validate that it's the correct person to even talk to. Now, the way that you can do this is by just quickly looking at their social media profile. That usually will give you some sort of indication whether or not they are a mom or they're a business owner, or you can just straight up ask them really early on in the conversation. Step 2 is that you want to make sure whether or not their objectives and goals align with your specific offer. Once again, let's pretend that your offer is a weight loss product. Well, you're not going to be able to sell a weight loss product to someone who doesn't have weight loss as part of their set of goals. So what you want to do is you want to first talk to them and figure out, hey, are you trying to lose weight? Do you value that? And if so, then amazing, you can continue on with the conversation. But if not, then you're probably going to want to disqualify that prospect. Now, the third point is you want to identify if they actually have the specific pains and problems that you're trying to solve for. Now, let's go back to that example earlier when we were talking about weight loss. Now, someone could in theory be trying to lose some weight, but let's say that they are actually doing a really good job. Let's say in the last 3 months, they've actually been consistently losing weight, and now they feel as though they have no problems with it, and it's just a matter of time before they hit their goal. Well, this is actually still the wrong person to be going after, because despite them having a matching set of goals as what you could potentially help them achieve, They no longer have a problem. Maybe if you reached out to them 3 months ago, they would have been desperate to look for some help. But now that they pretty much have a lot of confidence that they'll hit their goal, you no longer provide the same level of value. What it means is that actually what you're looking for in a potential prospect is that they are struggling, that they're suffering, that they simply cannot achieve their goal without some help. So that's exactly why we're asking this question. We want to figure out, do they have struggles? Are they trying to overcome some sort of gap that they by themselves cannot overcome? And if they tell you, yes, I'm struggling, yes, it's something that's on my mind, it's a little bit urgent, then you are in a much greater position to be able to sell them. So that is yet another layer of qualification that we're trying to achieve. One of the reasons why I think a lot of appointment setters struggle is because they immediately just start pitching before they ask any of these qualification questions, right? So imagine how annoying it would be if you're the prospect and someone's asking you, hey, here's this weight loss product, do you want to buy it? And if you don't even care about that particular problem, it's just baffling to you why someone would even reach out, right? And as a salesperson, you don't want to waste your time trying to pitch a bunch of people that simply do not care about the problems that you're solving. So this is why it's so important to qualify with these questions. Now, step number 4 is you actually start pitching them. And it's a little bit crazy, right? Because a lot of people will tell me, wow, why are you waiting so late into this conversation before you start pitching them? But that's the entire idea. The entire idea is that you actually do the discovery, you learn about the prospect, you validate whether or not they're even the right person to be talking to, that they have the goals that you're looking for, and that they have the pains that make it so that they're urgently trying to solve a problem. And only when all of those things are checked off do you then try to sell them. But the reality is, let's say they tell you all of these things, that they are in fact looking to lose weight, that they have been struggling with it, and that they just simply cannot find a solution. How easy would it be for you to then come in and say, hey, you know what? I hear you. I understand how challenging this might be. Well, why don't we actually go on a quick call and I can share with you exactly step by step how you can overcome that specific problem, because I've helped other people achieve that same thing before. Right now it's tailored, now it's personalized, and because you've asked all those questions, you have a very high degree of confidence that you actually have something that will ultimately bring value to the end client. And that's what sales is all about, right? Being able to show the client that you can bring value to them. And when you pitch it like that, where you're saying, hey, you told me that you have X, Y, and Z problem, and I can help you overcome those issues, they're gonna feel as though you're really paying attention and that you're actually able to address those concerns. Of course, they're going to say yes to booking a call at that point in time. All right, so I wanted to go into some sample conversations for you guys just so that you can really see visually how this will play out in the real world. And by the way, this conversation here is going to be in LinkedIn, but you can really have a similar structured conversation across any of the messaging platforms that you can do DMs on, whether that be Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, even Reddit. I've done this before. So Cedric is the example that I wanted to go through here. And the first thing that I want you to do, once again, is to identify whether or not they're even the right person to talk to. So for me, my ideal client profile is someone who's an entrepreneur. They're trying to scale. They're trying to generate more clients. So the nice thing about LinkedIn is I can actually answer that question without even asking him directly, are you an entrepreneur? Because on LinkedIn, but as well on some other social media platforms, you can just go on their primary profile and you can probably understand, do they meet your general criteria? Now, if they don't tell you explicitly because the bio doesn't have that information, then of course you can just ask them in the DMs. But that's once again the nice thing about LinkedIn. You can more or less know exactly their job title, and then you can skip that part of the conversation because you already understand the answer to that question. Now, as far as the first message that I send out, you'll notice that it's fairly friendly, that I'm not actually asking for anything in particular. There's no call to action. And the reason why is because my goal here is just to start the dialogue. That's the thing with DMs. You want to make it very conversational because conversation is what allows you to start asking questions, and asking questions is what allows you to actually have the highest potential chance of booking the meeting, not just immediately pitching. That is the worst faux pas that you can have when it comes to DM sales. It's just trying to immediately pitch even though you've never had any sort of banter with someone. So I try to just be very friendly, try to start the dialogue, and this is exactly what happens. Cedric more or less says, hey, thanks for the invite. We can link up. Absolutely, right? Now, for me, this is my invitation to start asking some additional qualification questions. And if you recall, the step number 2 was to actually understand, do they have the same goals and objectives that I could potentially help them with? So that's why I started asking some questions about his business, about his growth, about how things have been in the first 6 months of his organization. So for him, he more or less says, yep, I am trying to grow my company. In fact, it's even a challenge for me to get some consistent business, which is really great, right? He's starting to even imply that there's some problems, which is really good because that means he's more likely to be a good potential prospect for me. Now, I'm not going to be happy with this. I want to dig a little bit deeper. So if you recall, step 3 is I want to get deeper into pains and struggles and obstacles. So that's why I start empathizing and saying, hey, you know what? I totally understand. It can be a very big challenge. Whenever I empathize, it makes them feel safer to also be vulnerable, right? But then I start digging into, okay, so how are you getting clients and what makes it so hard? So he tells me, okay, like I'm doing some telemarketing. I've been able to get like a couple clients. For me, I'm a consultant. I want to actually pick apart what it is that they're saying, and I want to identify if there's any gaps in pains and struggles. So I'm going to start saying, hey, you know what? Telemarketing seems like it could be pretty difficult. Like, how expensive is it? And really what I'm trying to obtain with this line of questioning is I want him to tell me, yeah, it's overly expensive, or yeah, it's still quite a challenge to get leads in the calendar. If I can start getting some of that deeper level of pain, then I know that I have my entrance into booking the call. So that's exactly what I do. I even say, yeah, that's like really quite pricey, right? And then I imply, you know what, there's actually a lot more efficient ways to do outbound. There's a lot more efficient ways to do lead generation. So once I'm able to challenge him a little bit on his perspective, and you can actually see here in the conversation, I'm providing specific points in which I'm teaching him and saying, hey, there's probably better ways to do this. Then I finally ask, hey, you know what? I can actually just share with you very quickly over a screen share exactly what you can do and how you can improve your strategy in order to generate more sales calls. Would that be interesting to you? And of course, he's going to say yes, because we already know he has the goals that I can help with, which is he wants to generate more leads and more clients. And then he also has pains in which he needs to overcome, which is a very expensive means of generating clients right now. It's a little bit inefficient. He's doing telemarketing. It's not working super well. So with all that being said, that's why he's willing to jump on a sales call with me, and I send him the calendar and I book the call. Now, a lot of the conversations that my sales team will have with clients over the DMs will go something like this. Not always are we going to need to challenge their assumptions or give as many recommendations as we need to. Sometimes it could be even as simple as just asking the question of, hey, what are your goals? And then the following question could be, hey, what is it that you're most struggling with? And then finally, you can just provide a pitch of saying, hey, if you're struggling with this, why don't we just jump on a call and I'm going to help you out? But this is a pretty good example of us going above and beyond of how we can really lock in this meeting for our sales team. So the next example would be something from a more inbound lead source. So this is actually Daniel Brea. And the cool thing about this is he's actually seen content that we've posted. So just like I implied above, you can share content everywhere, whether it be a LinkedIn or Facebook. And in this case, Daniel actually saw some of this content and he heard some of his friends talking about our services, and he more or less just reaches out and says, hey, I noticed that you actually do organic marketing. I'm looking to improve this as well. Can you please just give me some assistance? So this is actually an example of us not needing to go through the entire process that we talked about before. Because here, he's already so warm, he's already so ready to learn more that I can pretty much just tell him, hey, why don't we just jump on a quick call? I can share with you a little bit more about what we do, and he just gives us his phone number, right? So understand that the amount of selling that you need to do or persuading or qualification is relative to how warm they are. If someone is coming in super hot and you know that they're more or less the right fit, you don't need to go through all that DMing to book the call. You can just book the call in a much more straightforward manner, and it still gets the job done. The only thing that I would consider if I were you is if it's a lead coming in via inbound, but you have no idea whether or not it's even a good fit. So once again, let's say you help mothers lose weight and someone DMs you asking for help, but you have no idea whether or not they're a mother, you have no idea whether or not they're trying to lose weight. It probably still makes sense for you to ask those discovery questions to make sure that they're a good fit before wasting your time on a sales call. But with that being said, once again, if it's an inbound lead and they're super warm, you don't need to add additional layers of friction. Just quick qualification, book the call and chat with them and hopefully close them over the phone. One of the questions that I get is, how do you actually scale this? Let's say you're getting 100 or even 200 DM conversations every single day. There's no way that you, as the business owner, are going to be able to actually manage all of this all by yourself. And that's where a setter comes in. When you have an appointment setter who literally spends every single day working with you full time on just booking appointments and managing all those conversations, then you can start actually generating significantly more meetings, and you'll free up tons of time so that you can actually manage the sales calls and ultimately close deals. However, delegating this to setters is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do. And that's why I actually have a full video that talks all about how you can find the best setters, how you can train them, how you can even manage them so that they can ultimately drive massive profit to your organization. Now, if you're curious about working with me directly, if you have some questions about how you could actually deploy Facebook or any other social media platform, or even install a team of appointment setters and sales reps so that you can scale your business, then just book a call in the description box below. And just like how Fernando here was able to use our services to help them scale past 6 figures a month, and Christopher, just like him, 100K a month, Ria as well, $90,000 a month, you can as well. We actually have clients that have broken 7 and 8 figures. I'm gonna be here, super excited to meet you, and cheers.